Hi folks, welcome back to the shop. Today I just want to talk about what I think is the best crimping tool on the market. Now before I get into the video, please consider liking the video if you like this content. Please consider subscribing and commenting. All of these things help me continue to bring content to the channel. Now when it comes to crimping tools, I sort of put this off for a time, right? They're not cheap tools and they're used, for me anyway, somewhat infrequently. But I felt the best crimping tool in the market really came down to two options. This particular one is the Klein tools. And here I just wanted to show the packaging real quick, but you can see Klein tools, made in the USA, 9-inch crimper, 9-inch handles, and just a quick look there at the packaging. But now when it comes down to crimpers, there's really, I'm going to over summarize here, but there's really three options available. You can get a ratcheting crimping tool or this style here. And I prefer this style of crimping tool because, you know, it's not as big. The ratcheting crimping tool is much larger at the head to have the ratcheting action and so on. And I think if you're doing a lot of crimps, it might be a good way to go. I wanted something I could store. It's very slim, that I could store in a tool pocket, and it would just be easy to store, easy to keep, easy to carry. And this would suit my needs and be good enough. Now, when you get down to picking this type of tool, there's really only two options out there on the market in terms of what I felt were like the number one options. And you know, Channellock makes an excellent version of this tool as well. Now this is the Klein 1005 model of crimper, and Channellock's model I think is the 905. And the major difference you notice between those two tools right off is that you'll see that on a crimper we have what's labeled non-insulated and insulated crimps, right? And the difference on the Channellock tool is that these are reversed, right? Non-insulated is back here in the back, the insulated portion is up here. The actual cut in the die is very similar between those tools, right? And just to sort of illustrate here, I've got some typical connections that you might want to crimp. And just to kind of give a quick illustration here for those who may not know, so insulated would mean something like this, where the base of it is insulated. We're not just crimping bare metal. And the idea is that you would put the crimp, your connector in here in the crimper, and you would bear down and crimp on the tool. Now there's some folks out there that, you know, prefer to use the non-insulated part of the die all the time. So if you look in there, you'll see a cut right there in the middle of this crimper where we want to fold those two pieces of metal down. And there's a lot of guys out there who say, well, you know, they use this part of the tool for everything. You know, they try to sort of center it up. And there's different schools of thought. Some people think it should be flipped the other way. It's, you know, I'm going to say that's, you know, you have to kind of figure that out for yourself and get some experience on it. But I'm just going to show here how the typical crimp works. So you squeeze down the tool. Of course, the 9-inch handle gives you lots of leverage. We bite down there. We get a really good connection there between the two. As I said, a lot of folks would say, hey, you should come in on this side. You know, again, you can do some trial and error and see which way you prefer to do that. But that's typically how the tool is used. It makes an excellent crimped connection. That's something that I wanted to illustrate there real quick. Now, I got by using the crimping part of my lineman's pliers for years. Right here, you can see there's some crimpers in the back. And you know, it works, but it's not as ideal. You're not going to get the same kind of crimp, especially for small connectors, you know, that you're going to get like on this Klein tool with a die that's specifically cut on the tool for crimping. But this, of course, works great for electrical crimps, much larger types of crimping jobs. But, you know, one thing to be aware of, I wanted to explain real quick, was that, you know, the real plus with a tool like this is that, you know, because the crimping part of the tool is in front of the hinge or you know, the fulcrum point, you get a lot more leverage because you're crimping on this part of the tool versus crimping back here, you know, behind the pivot point. You know, crimping back here, you just have a lot less leverage when you go to do the actual crimp. So, you know, even though these tools are sort of a dedicated special use tool and they're not inexpensive, they certainly give you a much better crimp because the actual part of the die is in front of the fulcrum. So a tremendous amount of leverage you can get with this tool and just do a better job crimping in general. But you know, with that said, I think if you got the Channellock crimpers, you would do perfectly fine. I think they're an excellent crimper. It's really a question between the Channellock and the Klein which one you crimp most with. Do you use the non-insulated part of the die, or do you prefer the insulated part? You know, whichever one you prefer, I would say you would probably want that to be towards the jaw of the tool, because as you're putting your different connections in here to crimp, whatever's further out front, you know, to this part of the tool, it's going to be quicker and easier. You have to spread the handles less to pop it in. So I'd say whichever part of that die you think you're going to be using more on the tool, then that'd be the way to go, right? So if you prefer, if you're doing most of these insulated crimps where you have to come back here on this part of the twist, you have to really open this up wide to do that. You might prefer the Channellock if you're using that part of the tool more, because Channellock's got it out front. If you're using this insulated, non-insulated part of the die more, you might prefer the Klein tool. But really don't think you can go wrong either way when it comes to selecting those two crimpers. And the prices are about the same for the two tools, and they're both, of course, made in the USA, which is great. So with that said, folks, that's all I have to say on this particular item. Please consider liking and subscribing, and we'll catch you on the next video.